Hello.
Jody, can you hear us?
Now I can. Good evening.
Success. Okay, we're ready to start?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Still hasn't started.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll start the
Sorry.
Planning Community Design Commission for December 1st, 2022. In order. Jody, are you able to call the roll?
Absolutely. Rob Jurgel,
Present.
Carol Wagner,
Present.
Jody Rich here, Richard Brophy,
Absent.
Brian Lewis,
Present.
Daniel Rosenberg,
Present.
and Tim Spiegelglass.
Present.
Let it also be known that we have City Council Liaison, Councilmember Missy Waldman in attendance, as well as Carlos Trejo, Olivet's Planning Community Design or Department Chair or Director, I'm sorry. Don Doty, Senior Planner, Bridget Waters, Administrative Assistant. Carlos, is there anybody else online that I need to
No, sir.
notify? Okay, good. All right. Well, thanks everybody for attending. The last couple of meetings, we didn't really have not too many people in the audience. So it's good to have a crowd. So we're very happy about that. And it looks like we do have some people online too, Carlos?
Yes, we do have one person beyond staff.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, just to go through a little bit of the procedures at the beginning of the meetings, we always have time for public comments. These are for items that are not on the agenda item. So when we bring that up, just remember, when we call for public comments, if you have something that's related to an agenda item, please wait for that item to come up in the agenda. How we go through this is there's a staff report for each agenda item. There'll be some discussion with commission members, with Carlos, discuss about the report. And then we typically bring on the petitioner and have them, further discuss their item, and then also go over any questions that we may have. At that point in time too, then we also ask for public comments related to that agenda item. Okay, when you if you do approach the podium to speak, either as a petitioner or if you're giving public comments, we do ask you to state your name and address for the record. And for the public comments, we ask that you keep your comments short, as brief as possible, and not to go longer than 3 minutes. To be respectful for everybody's time, make sure everybody's opinions are heard, and try to keep these meetings from going into the wee hours. So, all right. That being said, Carlos, did I miss anything?
No, sir.
Okay, good. All right, so we'll move on to public comments. Is there anybody in the audience that has a public comment that's not related to the agenda items? Seeing none, Carlos, do we have anybody online?
If anybody online would like to speak before the commission, again, regarding a non-agenda related item, just show your hands. Should be at the lower portion centered on your Zoom window.
Usually wait about 30 seconds or so, just to give people time.
Okay, Chairman, I see none.
Okay, That being said, we'll move on to new business. Item A, text amendment regarding minimum widths for the SR single family residential district. Carlos?
Chairman, this item has been discussed at three previous work sessions. We have drafted a formal ordinance on there. What this ordinance would do would amend the city's SR single family residential district and allow a legal lot of record that is greater than 40 feet or 40 feet or greater in width and up to 50 feet to permit for the reconstruction or, for tear down or redevelopment of a home. Under the current ordinance, if you have a lot that is less than 50 feet in width, all you are allowed to do is add on to it, alter it, or with the term they use, reconstruct exactly what's there in there, but you can't tear down the house and rebuild. That's what the code says. The intent of the code is to encourage smaller lots to get consolidated into larger lots. In this case, this text amendment would do somewhat of the reverse and bring the threshold down from 50 feet to 40 feet. In review of a map prepared by the planning staff, 7 lots would benefit by this, only 7 lots that are legally recorded and that are between 40 and 50 feet in width. 4 of those lots are right north of Chevy's. And they're 40-foot wide lots belonging to the Baldwin Estates subdivision. 1 is further north on Hilltop Drive, which is the city created lot when we relocated a household structure due to some road improvements. And then the 7th is on Watsonia, which recently did a major renovation and then added a garage, 2-car garage onto their property. Their lot is 45 feet in width and abuts a 5-foot strip of land that isn't theirs. So I don't know if that's where some of the 50, but they did have to go through the process of getting some leniency on the code to do the addition in the past. This amendment would not authorize any new lots in Olivet to be less than 50 feet in width or less than 60 feet in width in any form or any way. This is only if you have an existing lot that is below 50 feet, but 40 feet or greater and has 5,000 square feet of lot area. Be glad to answer any specific questions in there. I know the commission's had discussions on this.
Go ahead, Carol.
This coast, if we pass this proposal this evening, does it then go to council?
Absolutely, yes, it would be a recommendation.
We kind of went over it all together before, and I think we feel pretty comfortable with it. But Carol, I know that you missed a few meetings, so I didn't know if you needed to ask any more questions or.
I'm fine. That wasn't my only one. I just
Okay.
wanted to verify.
Yeah, okay, good. That being said, are there any public comments related to this? Sir, go ahead.
Okay, Larry Koenig, 1131 Hilltop. I'm one of the lots that would benefit from it. And even though my house has been improved, if in the future something would happen, maybe a fire, tornado, who knows? It would benefit me to have it to be a buildable lot again. And the whole area, I don't know if you're aware of the history of it, but the whole area, including what's now the Opus project, was all laid out in those 40-foot wide lots like that. And then it was re-subdivided later as the Hilltop Woods. And that's how we got in. Actually, Irvington was one of the streets that was on that original plat.
Really?
Yes, it was, that plat is from 1927.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and this would be a big benefit to the area if Mr. Cohn gets those first 3 houses down, because 2 of them are rental property and one has been empty for I don't know how many years, and it's in pretty bad shape. And it would just be a big improvement. It would be a big improvement to my property because the new house will be further away from my property line too, because right now it's 3 foot from my property line.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Good.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your comments, sir. And thanks for the history. It's always nice. That being said, Carlos, any other public comments or anybody online?
If anybody online would like to speak in regards to this text amendment, if you can show your hand symbol, it's located in the center of the bottom of your Zoom screen. Chairman, I see none.
Any further discussion? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead, Kurt.
I'd like to motion to recommend approval and forward to the city council an ordinance amending section 400.220 permitted uses being part of Article 4 SR Single Family Residential District of Chapter 400 zoning regulations of Title 4 land use of the Olivet Municipal Code to reduce the lot width noted under section 400.220 parens A.3.A close parens from 50 feet to 40 feet as presented in the staff memorandum dated December 1st, 2022.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Carol Wagner and seconded by Daniel Rosenberg. Carlos, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approved.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Commissioner Rich,
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner,
Approved.
Chairman Dragell,
Approved.
and the motion passes unanimously, 6-0. The next step on this is just a recommendation. It'll be forwarded to the city council for final review and approval. And in conjunction, since this is part of our land use code, a public hearing. The tentative date for the first reading for council would be January 10th. And then the earliest date for the public hearing would be the January 24th meeting, of course, these being 2023.
Very good. Okay, we'll move on to discussion items. Item A, which is outdoor lighting.
One second here, Chairman.
No word, take your time.
Our goal has always been to make sure that on the first Thursday meetings, we have an opportunity to conduct work sessions. And we're trying to, similar to other commissions, is to have opportunities to get professional or outside information to the commission. Tonight, you have two items in there for discussion. We've asked the people to speak to limit their presentations to no more than 15 minutes. And then the commission can have questions and answers. Commission is more than welcome if you want, Chairman, to ask questions in that, but we're trying to keep ensure we're okay with the time. Tonight we have a outdoor lighting discussion by Ms. Todd. And there you have some information regarding Ms. Todd's background, who's an Olivet resident and a board member with the St. Louis Region chapter and vice chair of the International Dark Skies Association of Missouri. And she played an important role in having Stacy Park designated as a urban night sky place. And there, Ms. Todd has talked with staff and Public Works, both Don and I and the Public Works Director regarding outdoor lighting in there. And if it's okay, Chairman, she's going to provide a brief PowerPoint presentation. And then
I think that'd be great.
okay. Ms. Todd, I'm going to give you the clicker here. And I'm going to put your presentation up. That way you have control of that.
Sure you
I
use
just
the
want to
mic.
make sure I got everything
Oh,
running for.
okay.
It helps for people online too,
Yeah.
so they can.
So like Carlos said, I'm a board member of the Dark Sky Missouri chapter, and then, I may.
Yeah, this is the latest one.
okay.
You can describe it, please.
Well, on this one, I just put that I'm also a member of the Olivet sustainability advocate group. So, yeah, it's fine.
Right. I'm gonna have to control it, so I apologize. Oh,
Okay.
no.
That's fine. So.
It's good.
Yes. I'm going, how do I go backward? Oh, I see. Okay. Going backward. Oh, I was clicking the right side. Right, that's good. Okay. So then- Okay, sorry. Okay, so first off, all the cities are going to LEDs. I think we are too, which is great. LEDs are good. They save a lot of energy, and there's also there's other environmental effects in them, like they have no mercury or lead. So I'm not here to tell you you can't have lights. Lights are good. We need lights. So and LEDs are good. You save a lot of energy, but you should have proper LEDs. And so preferably they should be less than really 3000 Kelvin, but really less than 2700 Kelvin. And the reason is, which I'll explain a little better. So the reason is that those higher lights, like the 4000 and 5000 that we have out here now, they have a lot of blue light in their spectrum. And so just like they tell you with your computer, don't sit at your computer at night. Well, it's the same with these. The blue light screws up everything, all like you people, if it's shining in their houses, if, bugs, birds, plants, it messes up everything. And so, and there's also the big misconception that you need brighter lights for crime. Well, that's wrong too. It's brighter lights does nothing to prevent crime. Yes, lights, but not these obnoxious, bright, glaring lights. So what I wanted to show here is that you want and again, we're used to thinking in watts and things like that, but there's a lighting thing like this when you go to Home Depot on all the lights. So you want 2700 Kelvin, or at least, or 3000, anything less than 3000, but the 2700 is great. And I know it seems weird, but you want the warm colors are the cooler, are the lower Kelvin. And here's like a little chart to show that, that you're not sacrificing anything. Like, look at the 4000, look at the 3000, and look at the 2000. It's not, you don't really notice any difference. And and the reason why is because that you want the lower Kelvin is if you have the 5000 down up in there, if you see at 5500 Kelvin, that's that you have as much blue as you do at noon. And so when you have these bright lights, every living organism thinks, oh, it's noon, it's the middle of the day. And if you get down to the lower, you want that blue low. And so even the 3000 has like a little spike, but like the 2700, then there's hardly any blue. And then if you look at the top again, it has like an example of the lights, and I have a better example here. So see, so that you get into those bright, the 4000, 5000, those are the ones that glare. Like, these new LEDs on these cars, it just blinds you. Yeah.
And you cannot.
Yes. And so that's,
Look at my car.
and that's what I'm talking about. And that's what I'm talking about here. You want that lower Kelvin. You can see just as well. It doesn't hurt your eyes, and it doesn't mess up, like I said, living things. And so back in 2016, so 6 years ago, the American Medical Association said, be careful when you switch to LEDs because they can have adverse consequences. And what the report says is that, again, that white blue light disrupts our circadian rhythm. So then it affects your sleep. And so now there's studies, I think that in the New York Times just had like 3 different articles in the last couple of months, how now it's showing that if you're sleeping and you get all this light shining into your bedroom window, that there's an increase in cancer, diabetics, cardiovascular disease, obesity. And it all goes back that you're not getting the proper rest. And so you're just messing up everything. And so, like I said, if it messes it up, you're hungry because you think it's daytime and you need to eat, and your blood pressure goes up, and it just kind of messes up everything. And again, and with crime, so people say, oh, well, I have to have these lights for crime. No, because it blinds you. And so we have this motto, bright lights make dark shadows. So what happens is if you have this super, super bright light, you can't see like out at all in the periphery because your eyes, it takes a while for your eyes to adjust. Just like if you walk in a dark room, it's like, oh, I can't see. And then you stand there for a minute. Oh, I can see. So it's the same with these bright lights. And both Houston and Chicago did studies on that. And it was kind of interesting. So Chicago had a street, Chicago, they have crime all over. So they had a street, it had crime. They lit it up super bright. The crime increased. And they actually interviewed criminals and they said, so what do you look for when you're going to go break in? They go, it's lit up. Then I can see what I'm doing. I'm not like looking suspicious, Yeah, they're like, I'm not looking suspicious walking with a flashlight, shining it into things. And then, the door or car, whatever, it's all lit up. So I just hide in the shadows till, nobody's around. Then it's lit up for me. I just bust in. And the same with like, if you're walking through a park or something, yeah, you want lights, on the sidewalk, but not these blinding lights. It's again, somebody can hide in the shadows. And the American Medical Association kind of said how this glare hurts your eyes too. They said it, LEDs have worse glare than conventional lighting. It can cause, they call it a disability glare when, you can't see. And they, in their report, they actually said that in cities where they have these really bright lights, that citizens started complaining that they felt like they're living in a prison because it's so lit up everywhere. And a key thing is that at 3000 Kelvin, the eye still perceives the light as white, but it is a significant improvement, again, because it reduces the glare. And there's another something. Oh, and sometimes I've heard sometimes I've been working with downtown St. Louis City, and the police chief says, oh, I have to have these bright lights for color. No, so the color rendering, what color you can see is the same with the 4000 Kelvin and the 2700 Kelvin. The colors are the same. You don't have to have these bright lights. And then it goes back again that if you don't have these bright lights, you can actually see better because you're not getting so much glare and reflection if you want to see details. Okay, there. And here's a good picture that shows what I'm talking about. So here's a house. They have these awful bright lights on the side of their house, and there's an open gate there. So, if you're looking out the window, go, oh yeah, nobody's here. Okay, my yard is safe. But if you put, if you shield that horrible bright light, there's a guy standing right there in the glare. But when that light is glaring in your eyes, you can't see that guy is right there hiding in the shadows. And then it impacts wildlife, like 30% of vertebrates and invertebrates are nocturnal. It messes them up the same way it messes us up, with their orientation and navigation. It affects, mostly all living plants, again, because it messes up their circadian rhythms too. And St. Louis, we have a big deal here about Lights Out Heartland, because St. Louis sits on the Mississippi Flyway, which like 80% of the birds use that to migrate. And I'm just finding out all these things too. So the majority of birds migrate at night because they can save energy. It's cooler and they can avoid predators. And so then they focus on the moon and the stars to navigate. Well, if there's these bright lights that are shining up into the air, we're not really sure why, but they sit there and they'll just circle them until they just die from exhaustion or they hit something. And so St. Louis is the sixth deadliest city for birds in the spring. I mean, fifth in the spring and sixth in the fall. And literally thousands of birds die every year. And the St. Louis Audubon Society does like bird surveys where they walk around downtown every year and pick up birds, but dead birds. But again, everything help, every little bit helps. And they focus on lights that point up. And lights are horrible for insects. They fly into them and die. And people say, oh, I don't care about bugs. Well, you do. They're pollinators. There's good bugs. They're the bottom of the food chain. And the insect population has shrank, almost a third in 30 years. And they're the worst in the Midwest. So I don't know. So that's something, again, it just kind of keeps snowballing all the bad effects of light pollution. So what can you do? So we have the 5 principles. First, light should be useful. Why do you put lights on your bushes? Or why have parking lots lit up at 2 in the morning? Nobody's shopping, nobody's out at 2 in the morning. It should be targeted, so they should go down, so full cutoff. And then low as necessary, like the 2700 Kelvin. And if you need a light, I'm not saying you should have lights, but have it pointing down, have it where you need it, in front of your door or something, or even put it on a timer. Timers are great for motion detectors. I meant motion detectors. So that, to try to prevent crime. And I looked at the Olivet ordinances. And so Olivet we have some really good ordinances. There's one, it requires a full cutoff. So that means that all the light has to go down. So you're not wasting all this energy by shining light up in the air at all. There's like a plane, it has to go down. But I suggest adding into there the 2700 Kelvin or less, because all our new streetlights, they're the fixture itself is pretty good, but they're still the super bright white. But again, something that it wasn't clear to me if the ordinance applies to all exterior lights or just along Olive, because it says something about the Olive corridor or something.
Was that a
So-
particular section?
Yes.
Yeah,
part
it's
of it.
this, there's actually a section on lighting. And then now this is kind of a nitpick, but it says streetlights that become inoperative need to apply within the ordinance. So if you wanted to be really nitpicky, because a lot of cities are just going through and replacing all their LEDs, because with the energy savings, you're paying for the LED itself. So Ameren could say, well, they're operative, they work, I'm just replacing it. So theoretically, they could argue that they don't have to meet our ordinance. And so it should say something like, all existing fixtures, whenever they are replaced, removed, or reinstalled, something like a little more specific so somebody can't get out of it. And then I suggest that, when developers put in a new development, I don't know if it's there, but have them that they have to submit a lighting plan for the city, so that neighbors aren't, you're basically the Olivet residents will appreciate it. They don't want to back up, because I know a guy, he lives, his backyard backs up against one of the businesses on Olive, and the bright lights shine into his house. So he went and talked to the owner of the business and said, hey, this is really obnoxious. My whole house is lit up at night. The owner goes, yeah, so what? I don't care. And he said, well, you're not meeting the ordinance, because you do have a good ordinance that it should be full cutoff and no line of sight bulb. And he goes, yeah, I don't care. I'll do something when the city makes me. So again, I don't, so you probably,
Wait, I'm sorry, but Carlos, don't we have the ordinance that you have to keep the light on your property?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, I don't think he's complained yet to the city. He just went to the owner and the owner said, yeah, tough, I'll do something when the city makes me.
Mhm.
So that, and that's what I'm saying. We do have some good ordinances.
Mhm.
I'm just saying if they just need to maybe be tweaked a little and maybe put something, I don't know, if you put some kind of enforcement or something, but probably the main thing is if you could put it less than like the 2,700. And then maybe a requirement that businesses turn off exterior lights 1 hour after closing. You know, why did they, or, you know, and if they need lights on for security or something, we'll tell them they have to put them on motion detectors or something too, because that would help out this guy. So that's just another, you know, just a suggestion. So that's what I'm suggesting, that, you know, we maybe tweak the ordinances a little to come in line. And another thing, I think and that's really what I'm saying. And we can help you with this, like Dark Sky, Missouri. You know, we have lighting experts. There's a guy he's in the Illuminating Engineering Society, who they make all the same recommendations as the American Medical Association. The Engineering Illuminating Society says, yes, you should have lights lower than 3,000 Kelvin. They've actually went to the when the American Medical Society came out with their report in 2016, when the Engineering Society came out with theirs in 2017, you could really only get about 3,000 Kelvin LEDs. Now you can get 2,700. So now they're recommending that, but they haven't changed their literature or their reports. They haven't updated it yet. And what I was going to also add is, so I've heard this secondhand, but all the cities and everybody's, you know, people don't like these bright lights. Residents and things, they don't like them if they're, you know, they're shining into their yards and in their houses. And so cities now are going to these lower. Well, I've heard, like I said, secondhand through that now these lighting companies are giving you big discounts if you buy the 4,000 or 5,000 Kelvin. And so, but again, the Illuminating Engineer guy says that even if you pay a little more for the 2,700 Kelvin, you'll actually save money in maintenance, because he says they last longer. So you have less maintenance, you're swapping them out less. And again, you know, I don't have any facts, but he says that basically those brighter lights, theoretically, you have a 10-year warranty. He says a lot of times they burn out. They don't last that long because they're burning so bright all the time. And when you go back and you try to say, hey, replace it, they say, well, you installed it wrong. So, so again, I don't have fact. This is, you know, I hear the secondhand from people. So you know, there's just a lot of benefits to going with the lower Kelvin, and people don't know, you don't know the difference. Like if you have the lower Kelvin here and the bright, you'll see it if it's side by side. But if you have your whole street with the lower, nobody's going to say, oh, this is dim. Nobody's going to say that. Nobody's going to even notice unless there's like this bright side by side. And like Carlos said, I talked to Bruce about it, because he's, you know, replacing all the streetlights, but apparently Ameren owns the streetlights. We like, quote, kind of lease them from them. So we say, hey, replace these. So they're replacing them with whatever they want. And I said, well, why don't you ask them to put in 3,000 or 2,700? And he goes, yeah, you know, he never thought about it. He didn't know he had an option. Now I've heard various things on that. I've heard some, because I guess I am working with these other cities. Some people will say, it probably depends what engineer you get. Some will say, okay, yeah, we can do that. You're a customer. Other areas will say, no, putting in what we want. You know, we handle what we want to put in. So, but if you have an ordinance that says streetlights shall be no more than 2,700 or something, then Ameren will comply with your ordinance. And this isn't, like I said, this isn't far out. There's been a lot of articles in the New York Times. Ellisville just enacted a citywide mandate for all outdoor lighting to be less than the 2,700 and light trespass and requirements. Brentwood Sustainability Committee just approved it unanimously to move it forward to their planning and zoning committee to draft ordinances for 2,700 or less. Kansas City has adopted in some areas of the city, the 3,000. Springfield is working with their strategic planning committee. And then I got involved with the city of St. Louis, but we got involved kind of at the tail end. They already had 2/3 of their lights under contract. So we're trying to get the last 1/3 maybe switched. But here's another kicker too. So what the illuminating engineer says, that even if you have the 4,000 now, 5,000, they're gonna burn out whenever, even, okay, 10 years. But when you replace it, if you have an ordinance, then when it's replaced with the lower Kelvin, it's all the same. First off, when they replace the LED, when these street lights, they don't just replace a bulb like in your house, it's the entire fixture. And so he said the wiring, the poles, everything is the same for the lower Kelvin LED is the higher. So they'll replace the fixture with the lower Kelvin and it's fine. So even though we've got a bunch of ours already, if we pass an ordinance, yeah, okay, it'll take a while to turn it over, but when it replaces, you're not replacing the whole, you're not doing everything, you're just replacing that fixture.
Sure, go ahead.
So the type of lighting that you're talking about, like the street lights and so on, are those lights typically, or is that amount of illumination, I should guess? I guess is a better way of putting it. Is that something you find mostly along street right of ways and parking lots? Is that something that is that too much light for residential uses? This is really what I'm asking. I'm not.
So I'm advocating that all outdoor, all exterior lights should be less than the 2,200 Kelvin. There's no reason. I mean, 27. Thank you. You're right.
Okay,
27.
I'm just trying to understand. Are those types of lights that have that much illumination? Is that mostly something we'd see within our commercial district? It's not something, we wouldn't necessarily be typically seeing that much light in our residential.
Oh, no. So I walk along that path that, like the bike path that connects Lindley and Dealman. I walk along that every night after dinner with my husband. My goodness, there's a house like 2 or 3 houses off the path. They've put these horrible, obnoxious lights all around their house. It just hurts your eyes when, if you just even look at the house, it's like, my goodness, their neighbors must be going crazy. So no, so even residents are getting like these horrible lights because again, they think they need them for safety or something to light up their whole house in the yard. And like when I walk along the path about trespass, I don't know, Beverly might have something to say about this because a lot of those houses now have switched over their lights and they shine in way into the common area. And so, which on the one hand, you can say, well, I don't care, I want it lit up. Well, but we've got all, plants and animals and bugs and everything that are all affected by it too.
Mhm.
So.
I was just curious, is there, and I find this fascinating, because I have this particular light question at Dealman and Old Bottom, but we'll get to that one. Is there any place where you do think something's worth more than 3,000 Kelvin? Are there any areas where you're like, no, I would recommend more? Or you're really saying just everything should be 2,700 or lower?
Yeah, I can ask that to other, I don't see any areas where you would need it higher, or if someone thinks they need it higher, like I can't think of anything why, but if someone thinks they need a bright light, I don't know, a hospital or I don't know, something, well then put it on a motion detector. So it's not on all night long, glaring in your eyes.
I'm just wondering about, and I don't know, but like, safety of walking, like I don't disagree with the glare and things like that, but if people are walking on a path or something like that, and being able to see trips or falls or cracks if they're in need.
Well, so, yeah, so that you can see perfectly well with the 2700 and, but make sure that it's focused down on the path too, there's no sense to lighten up the air. And you might even want it lower down. I mean, but the 2700 is fine. Cause there's actually whole cities that have done it. I don't know if you've ever, like in Hawaii, because they have the observatory, so the whole island down has the lower Kelvin lights. And I think San Jose does too in California, but like Philadelphia has switched, and so I know what you're saying, because I walk at night too, like I said, along that path. To be honest, you get so much sky glow and so much light pollution from all around, you can see pretty well anyway. But I know what you're saying. So yeah, so you can still light up your paths or your trails. Just, use. And if you get really low, it's kind of yellowy, but you can still see everything.
And go ahead.
So in my neighborhood and in all around the county, actually, I've seen that it's become very popular to decoratively light up your house in various ways to create shadow effects and so on. It's really quite an art form. So, but I'm not sure, I wouldn't say necessarily that the lighting is individually bright, but cumulatively, when
I
you see
know.
all the little lights around a house, it probably adds up to a lot. I just wonder, is there a way to measure something like that?
Yeah, and you could put like an ordinance to limit it. And again, it goes back. I know what you're saying, and a lot of it is cultural, and a lot of it people think their house looks nice, but again, you're pointing light up in the air. What you're showing off your house. And to me, I mean, there's some things that it's like pick your battles because to me, I would say, who's walking down why do you have to show off your house at 2 or 3 in the morning? You're just wasting energy, but again, and I know there's a house along Old Bottom that has these, and I keep thinking and talking to them. They have like these lights, they're all lit up in their trees. Well, Purdue, and they're really nice trees, but they've got all these lights shining up. Well, Purdue University did a study on trees, and the lights mess up the trees, and they have different categories. It messes up some more than others. And again, the trees think that it's still summer, that it's not time to shed the leaves. So they actually had a picture in their report where the tree under the street light still had all its leaves. They had changed color, but it still had all its leaves. And the other half away from the street light didn't have any leaves on it. And so they said, yeah, it was really interesting. And they said that if you have lights shining on your trees, it stresses out the trees. And because again, they never get to sleep. And they said that the light will, so it stresses them out. And so now they're more susceptible to disease. And then you have places like St. Louis where we get these ice storms. Well, if they don't lose their leaves and they get ice, then they're going to accumulate more ice, and then they're going to break up more, and all the branches, they're going to get broken up. And so, yeah, Purdue did a big study a couple years ago on trees and don't shine lights into your trees. But again, like you said, it's a big cultural thing that all these people think they have to light up their house that it looks nice.
Regards to Ellisville and Brentwood, that have enacted these, do you know how well the residents feel about that, with people now saying, well, you got to change your lights?
Well, so they don't make people change it. It's from here on.
Okay.
So if you go to replace it or something, they have to replace it. They're not making people go and.
But it's tough to know when they're replaced.
Yeah, and I don't know. So I can give you the name of the they have aldermen there. I can give you the name of the alderman that championed it.
Just
through.
curious, you know. so.
But they had a lot of discussion about it. It wasn't a quick, thing, but I know they had a lot of discussion about it. And then in Brentwood, it was funny. So I made a similar presentation to their sustainability committee, and their councilman was there, and we walked outside at the Brentwood City Hall, and they have these really bright glaring lights. And he goes, yeah, see that light there? The guy that lives behind us, boy, he was calling me almost every day, do something about that light. And they just put they kind of a kludge little shield on it, so it wouldn't shine in his yard anymore. So people really do care. And I think it's either, I mean, we don't have any of these, but I think it's Webster Groves, a private school, put in these horrible obnoxious lights in their sports field. So and they didn't meet the city ordinance, but somehow they claimed that somebody in the city told them they could do it, but it doesn't meet the ordinance. So all the residents around them are suing the school for these obnoxious lights that are shining in their houses all night. Again, why can't they just, so again, they have to have, a lawsuit to make them turn off these horrible lights.
I got a couple things too. I just wanted to throw out, the parking lot lights, shutting those off, after hours. I gotta think that the police department would want some lights on so they could be it when they're driving by, they could kind of see what's going on, around that
Yeah.
building. But there might be something we could do to reduce the amount. It's a.
But again,
Six or
if you
something.
have the lower Kelvin and they're all facing down, where Olivet's gonna have a problem is the gas stations, like that mobile gas station up there, my goodness. And I was reading about that. They said, I think it was in the 80s, they said gas stations never used to be lit up. And now, I think the article said in the 80s, I can't remember the time frame. They said that was the thing now, light them all up to bring people in to buy gas. So,
Yeah. I'm curious about the effects of Bear and the Danforth Center with their greenhouses.
I know, yeah, we get tons of sky glow. That was the problem when I did Stacy Park. That, yeah, all
Is
their,
there anything that they could do to, put some roof on top of it?
I know. Well, did you know it's all for sale now?
Not that side, not the.
Is it just
just the west
just
side.
the west side of, okay.
Yeah, not the east side.
I don't know, and that always confused me too, because everything I'm reading, and when I talked to all these people, they said plants need to sleep. So I don't know what they must have some kind of weird growing cycle or something, because yeah, the plants are there all the time.
Yeah,
Ah,
I was just
lit up.
curious.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Well, and it is interesting because I used to walk over there, there's that, the road that kind of parallels the facility. You walk there at night like this and there's birds flying around the light. I don't know. I don't think they're migrating, but it's like, why are birds out now flying in the light?
Looking for bugs.
I think they
Bugs
are.
would be
Yeah.
attracted right then too.
Yep.
So. Well, any other further discussion? I think it was very informative. I really appreciate that.
Chairman, just a little bit to kind of summarize
Yeah.
on what steps would be taken. And again, this is for informational purposes only. And I appreciate Ms. Todd's comments and her assistance with Don and I and Bruce, and looking at things of, what steps can we do to try to mitigate or address similar concerns. And more importantly, just like this presentation before the commission, is to educate our residents about the lights, both in terms of the spectrum, the nuisance that it can cause, and just being respectful to the neighbors in there. So we talked about trying to get something on one of our newsletters in there to expand the information that goes out. And I know there's other organizations too that are advocating for some sustainability standards that can help us and assist us in the process. The other thing is, to kind of review our regulations. Again, our regulations, being adopted back in 2006, 2008 are pretty good light standards when you were trying to control the fixture and the cause. At that time, LEDs were not, were there in the infancy. They still work effectively, but I think, Ms. Todd's brought to light, no pun intended, but the need to look at the intensity in there and the blue hue in that process. And that's something, we can try to take a look at, we can try to codify, we can try to set some type of principles or policy. Or again, I'm thinking, for new construction, maybe seek some outside assistance, just like we do for stormwater, to take a look at, the more complex type of things that go beyond the expertise of the commission or as planners in their, in that process. The other thing is, look at where some of these code applications can go on, look at some of the logistics in the process. Many of the times you can go to Home Depot, buy your lights and install them without anybody knowing the day that they're put in place. The other point on it, though, is that for those that do go through the regulatory process, they're pulling permits in St. Louis County. And so therefore, City of Olivet is never involved because it's more of an electrical permit in that process. So they, especially on the commercial side, I mean, they can appear overnight without any knowledge of us, of that installation in that process, because we don't. And I'm not advocating to take over, electrical permits. At one time we used to in there, but it becomes a resource and manpower type of issue in there. So, again, but if we have good principles in place, we can always correct after the fact. But what about those that are existing? I think there's some pathways Ms. Todd has given us in terms of trying to, when they're out, this is where you're going to go or what's going to be due, how to record some of those things. Again, that does take resources and times in there. And then to look at it in the three components too. New construction, probably very easy to be able to address these type of issues. Again, maybe hiring a lighting consultant to do the review, giving them some specific guidance as opposed to saying, this is it, be specific, that we're looking more at the light intensity in there, because our code pretty much identifies that they're shielded, they're down facing, they're directed in all that. Continue to discuss how do we tackle the existing ones, and you can look out, out here, we as you look towards the Walgreens and the Firestone, they're not as bright as if you go down to the Costco. No disrespect to our neighbors, but that's pretty well lit up, in there. So we've done an okay job. We can do a lot better. I certainly agree. And then residential, that's always the tricky one. It's a sensitive issue and everybody's got different opinions in terms of what they're doing. And then again, going through an educational process, informing them, and then moving from there. We'll go. So, I mean, again, in no ways are we done with the discussion. I think it's something we'll continue to take a look at and bring back to the commission. We'll also look at the Ellisville and Brentwood, and there's no need for us to reinvent the wheel if somebody's already gone through that process and bring those forward.
Yeah, because I can give you the ordinances that Ellisville adopted. They're on their website and everything, so I can send you those and a contact. And
That'd be great.
and Brentwood hasn't written their ordinances yet. They're going to start that process. So can I have a question? So even though St. Louis County people permits, aren't they obligated to follow whatever our ordinances are?
They would, yes.
Okay.
So, and again, the way I would find out in perspective, let's say like the gentleman that was calling and saying what the neighboring commercial property hasn't informed us, at least that I'm aware of,
I don't think he has.
and usually that's where we respond. I don't have a staff that drives at night, of course, and all that. We've had instances where we've had neighbors complain about a neighbor's light, and we talk to them, and then they usually do get addressed. I don't recall any citation that's been issued in there. One of the more significant ones is this office building just east of Gilman here on Olive, where they put up these lights on top, and they had one directly facing the gentleman's backyard on Gilman Road. It just lit up their backyard in there. Now, the area that they were trying to address was a really dark area and all that, but it was unfortunate with how they approached it. We talked to them, they resituated that, and then you know, it seems like everything has worked out fine. But usually that's how they come to us, and we don't go out to, you know, saying, you know, do this or, you know, you shall. It's, you know, trying to work with them, make them
Right.
understand the process, and then
Right.
get that corrected. So I urge your, you know, your friend to give us a call. And again, it's not the tattletale or anything like that.
Right, right.
But it gives us some guidance and we can talk to them.
I know people, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. And so I could, yeah, I'll send you whatever information, and if you want more information, you know, just let me know and I can help. Oh, Carlos made a good point too, that a lot of it is about education, because you know, I started working with all these environmental groups. And I didn't know about this. I had no idea that birds migrate, you know, things like that.
Right.
And so a
Stephanie, could you,
lot of times.
could you speak in the
Oh,
microphone?
I'm sorry. I just said that, so a lot of it is about education, that once people know these things, they're like, oh yeah, I can, you know, I can turn, so birds migrate in the peak times are May and September. They're like, yeah, I can turn off my lights in May and September. That's what this big Lights Out Heartland program is, you know, and then, or people like, yeah, I didn't know my lights were bad, you know, and stuff. So if you would like, I could write some kind of article or something for the newsletter. I mean, you could edit it but I'm offering, I could write something for the newsletter if you want me to.
I think it'd be great.
I
And
think
again,
it'd be
we'll
terrific
engage with
idea.
Ms. Todd on that. So,
Okay,
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yes, you need to talk to Bob.
okay,
But yeah.
I think it's a
great
super
idea.
idea.
okay. All right.
Sorry.
Well, thanks for your time.
All right, thank you. I was out of curiosity, what's the intensity of the?
Firestone,
Yeah,
that's, thank you for reading my mind.
well, again, I'm not sure.
that doesn't look horrible right there. that I
No.
see.
No, we've gotten a call about this. If you go along the Olive Boulevard side, it is pretty dark. It's pretty timid and dark, and it's nicely accented. We had a comment about the signage, and that's a whole different aspect of it, that, you know, it's not considered a lighting, but it is no different than, and we had the discussion when McDonald's, you can see the McDonald's menu boards from here in there, and we had a prolonged discussion with them and their engineers about that intensity and the back of Firestone. I'm not aware of any issues, and I know Mr. Cunningham pretty well. He hasn't complained or brought.
On the side of the fire.
Again, that's the sign that you're alluding to. And that's one of the drawbacks. If we're going to be bringing buildings towards the street, which is one of our goals, to create a more accentuated pedestrian pathway. Signage is usually on the walls. If that building was in the back, as a traditional building or Firestone would be, we probably wouldn't have that issue. But since it's now up in the front, yes, and that's the trade-off. And that's something, you know, the unexpected consequences, or that's just the result of that type of planning and design. So,
Yeah, we all learn.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to item B. Proposed, we don't need to take public comments related to. this.
no, and I don't think I'll check real quick. And these are just for discussion purposes. Ms. Lowe or Susan, if you have any comments, if you can just show your hand.
And if there's anybody in the public here that wanted to. Could you please come to
It'll be a
the
little
podium?
formal.
Remember to state your name and address for you.
Kimberly Honig, 1160 Walters Way. My residence is in University City. I just wanted to say that was fantastic. I learned a lot. And if you do write an article, I would hope you'd approach University City and put it into their newsletter. I read those every time they come out. I think they're very informative. So. you're welcome.
Okay, why don't we just, that's great.
Yep.
But we need to kind of keep moving on. So if you want to talk, maybe, you know, afterwards or something like that. All right, and if we can move on to the proposed private dog park in the LID Light Industrial District.
All right, Chairman, and Ms. Honig is going to come up. She's going to present. Ms. Honig is a property owner at 1160 Walters Way, and approached Don and I regarding a proposed project that she'd like to have the city consider in that area. 1160 Walters Way is right off of Dillman Industrial, so it's kind of surrounded by all office warehouse type properties, and it's vacant. It's the only vacant and well, one of two vacant industrial properties that I have in the city left in there. And she is seeking to she's here seeking some guidance about developing. I haven't figured out how best to term it, but some type of it's a public dog park concept in there. Now,
No.
yes, yes, there is.
No.
Oh,
It's completely undeveloped.
oh, right now.
Correct.
But part of the project would.
Yes.
Okay, that, so anyway, so we're having
I can't hear your question.
right
That's
now
correct.
it's vacant. So we look at, what's the purpose of the light industrial district, and that's to accommodate light industrial manufacturing and warehouse activities at a scale and intensity for the use that's compatible with development in the city of Olivet. Traditionally, you don't think of a dog park as something that you would find in a light industrial district in there. But under the current LID district, we do allow veterinary offices by right. So that means all they would have to do is come before the commission for their design review approvals. And then by special permit, we do allow kennels in there. So this is somewhat not necessarily a hybrid, but it's pretty compatible with the process in there. There wasn't a defined type of use for a private dog park, private club or social club for dogs to put this under. So we thought about, well, let's talk with the commission and get some guidance. Ideally, it would be best to identify the type of use that this is something we'd like to support. When we look at things and amendments for our zoning codes, we always look for guidance from the comprehensive plan. And there are some unique things in the comprehensive plan that do allude to going just beyond thinking of the traditional industrial manufacturer office type of uses, but to try to take a look at other uses that are ancillary or can support, the employment areas that are in that area. And this may be a possibility. We have Enterprise with their National Fleet headquarters there on the east. We have some other, we have close to 3,500 people that work in the Dillman Industrial Price Road industrial parks that may benefit from use similar to this. This has also been a site that has been vacant for well over 20 years, which usually reflects that there's some type of difficulty in that development in terms for this type of, industrial type of uses. So it could be whether it's utilities, it could be location, because it's not as highly visible as something on the Olive Corridor on Dillman Industrial Drive. So there's all kinds of things that you can consider maybe why it's been undeveloped, or and then you start thinking, what is the highest and best use, especially beyond what just having it vacant right now. So Ms. Koenig is going to kind of give
Carol's got a question before you move on.
Carlos, is this, I'm not sure I understand. Is this a privately built dog park, or is this a?
that's something she'll discuss.
That's part of what we'll be talking about, and I'll give you some highlights in my slides, and then we can field one-on-one questions if it's still not clear.
Okay, and then my other question is, I honestly don't know the answer to this, but is this a use that is actually in some ways a recreational use? And so we need to, of our Parks Department, or is this?
It's a good question. I kind of thought about that. So you're thinking like a planner in there, because that was the first thing. It's like, well, that's why we have the public activity district, the PA
Right, well,
district.
that's
It's
what
for those
parks
recreational
kind of-
type of uses, but
Yeah.
those are initially more for public use. This is solely a private use, just like the Old Town and Tennis and racquetball court in there. They were recreational uses, but they were private. Yes, they're businesses, and that's where there is a distinction. The other thing, quickly talking with our our parks director, is like, well, is this a competition, something we need to be concerned about? And it's like, and no, I mean, there will always be, this Earthside Citizens Park, Dog Park. I believe there's also another run in Stacy Park, or I thought there was in there. This is not intended to be competitive with those, and they function differently in there. And I think when Ms. Koenig kind of gives that description, you'll see the differences in there.
Question.
Pardon?
All right. And just so I'm clear, the arrows are what I'm using for the presentation forward and back.
Yes, let me get it up on the,
Okay. You guys all have handouts there. So if this goes wrong, you've got them right in front of you.
bear with me one second.
Yeah, no building, just like.
That's correct.
Okay. You're
Not
all
even a
set.
mailbox. And I was just thinking I should put one in so I can get the newsletter. Otherwise I don't get it. All right, so,
It's online.
oh, there we go. Thank you. All right, so, thank you for your time this evening. I'm Kimberly Honig. Address is 1160 Walters Way Lane. And this evening, I'd like to spend a little bit of time introducing myself, letting you get to know me, know a little bit about the business that we're trying to bring to Olivet, then talk to you about what I'm requesting from the committee this evening. And again, you're not making a decision this evening. It's a discussion, Q&A, and then I think you guys go back in January and make your decisions and come back to me. And then talk about why I think this is a good idea for Olivet, the benefits I think it brings to bear, and then some examples in the local metro area to help bring it to life. Like, what is this? What does it look like? Side arrows?
Yes. Thought it would work. I just.
No worries.
And now
Here we
you said-
go. That'd wait a little while. All right. So I'm Kimberly Honig of Honig Management LLC, owner of the commercial property just right back here in the Dealman Industrial Park, 1160 Walters Way. It's about 1.5 acres, completely flat, no development on it whatsoever. Not completely flat, completely undeveloped property. I'm a resident of University City with my lovely husband right here, Greg Honig, who's sitting with you in the audience. I have 20 years of corporate marketing. Did I do
was
that? Sorry. Don't look ahead. Marketing experience, which doesn't include clicker experience, obviously. A master's of marketing research from Southern Illinois University over here across the river. And for the last 2 years, as we purchased the property 2 years ago, and as we've been working on getting the business up and going, I've been working with a consultancy out of Colorado called the Dog Gurus in their executive training program to really help me fill the gap. I've never owned a small business, never owned a dog business. So really helping build that knowledge base and give me the resources and knowledge that I need in moving that forward. So what is this business? What's it going to be, Carol? All right, so we get caught up here. We've all heard the term pets are family. Well, pets are family for a lot of people. And it's also true that many dog owners love spending time with their dogs, and they look for opportunities and places to go to spend time with their dogs. Dog recreation areas and social clubs make happier dogs and happier dog owners. They offer exercise and socialization that dogs need to mitigate the bad behaviors and help kind of plus up the positive behaviors that you're trying to reinforce. It also offers a socialization activity for the owners themselves. The recreation and social club that we're looking to bring to bear will be offering services like grooming, training opportunities. It will have fenced outdoor play areas, special events, and retail for dog products. What's going on here? A good club balances safety with comfort and enrichment. These lists that I have here are features that would be included in the park that we're looking to bring to bear that will really help in a safe, comfortable manner offer these enrichment opportunities for the dogs and the owners. On the left-hand side, the outdoor play areas. So 6-foot high security fencing with double gated entrances, key fob security entrance, artificial ground cover. So I'll just get that out there right now. The reason that is critical to this business, if anybody has any concerns with it, it really makes for a safe, healthy environment for the dogs. You don't have any muddy messes. I don't know if you and your dog owners, but when you do go to a park with your dog, if there's any kind of inclement weather, you're going to go home with a muddy mess. And in the winter, you almost can't use that service because there's nowhere for you to wash off your dog. In this type of environment, your dog can come, socialize and play, and they leave just as clean as when you brought them there. There's ways to keep that artificial turf cool in the summer as well as it's hygienic and safe and clean. Obstacle play equipment, which is common in a lot of outdoor spaces.
Does the water go through that?
It does, yeah.
It
There's artificial turf that's specifically designed for dog spaces. And it's very, if you were to hold it up, and there's a video online, if you were to hold it up, the water just goes right through. And then you have your what is it called? Subgrade? Substrate, thank you, underneath that helps that kind of just get down. Yeah, great question. Water play areas, splash pads. So in this hot St. Louis summers, you can still get outdoors and your dog can run around and play and then cool off as appropriate. The indoor space, the building would have some event space for special events. Again, I don't know if you guys are dog owners, but it's very common for people to want to have parties with their dogs or for their dogs. They want to have a big book club event and bring their friends and all their dogs. These are all very popular activities for dogs and dogs owners. And this will give you a nice space for them to have those types of social events. There'll be dog washrooms, restrooms for the members, front desk, office, and laundry facilities for the
Dog
facility.
washroom?
Yes, that's a fancy name for a grooming area.
Oh.
She called me out on that one, Carol. So this,
And that would be when we. Not, we don't take our dog and use it, in our dog.
actually, it is self-service grooming. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have experience with that, Missy?
Standard rules. Yeah.
Oh, so you need the clipping. You need a regular groomer. Yeah, I have bath dogs. I have labs. This is our proposed site plan. Just real quickly, you'll see this is just how we're thinking of arranging the property. Again, it was 1.5 acres. On the bottom, which would be the front of the property, there's a one-way driving surface. Then after that, towards the middle of the property, you have two different recreational outdoor areas. One for smaller, less active dogs, one for larger or more active dogs. And those are size appropriate for the size of the dogs, and then the building sort of in the middle. Fully fenced, I think I mentioned that that's part of the security, both for the dogs as well as the owner. Any questions so far?
I guess I'm curious the area of the street parking as well available, because not those, I love. This, but I'm just curious, you have more than 20 people with that happen wherever you park. Just a thought for the future.
There would be on-site parking. That's a diagonal parking there
Yeah.
at the lower level.
Just 20
And
might
then
be low, is
calculate.
I'm thinking good business, so.
It is 25, but I understand your point.
Yeah, somebody to think about, okay.
And to answer your question on Walters Way Lane, it's not striped. There is room for two cars, but I wouldn't say there's off-street parking.
Okay.
And that's, well, never mind, we'll keep going here.
One more question. Are you
Yeah.
serving food or alcohol?
There would be, yes, during the special events. It wouldn't be on a full-time basis. It would be during special events only.
Is catering included, or you guys can have food?
We will have a kitchen prep area. We will not be cooking food on site. Yeah. What am I asking for today from this committee? To amend the current zoning regulations of the light industrial district. And give me 1 second. My slides are out of order here. So stew on that for a moment. Oh, there's one ahead. There we go. To amend the current zoning regulations of the light industrial district, and Carlos alluded to this a little bit before. What I'm requesting is language called the pet care services, excluding veterinary and pet supplies. Why am I asking for a change in the current zoning regs? And again, this was alluded to earlier. Currently, the zoning regulations don't have provisions for this type of business. And it has made moving forward with this project incredibly challenging. So that's why I'm here today to have this discussion with you. Is I've been trying very hard for quite a while to bring this forward and in hopes that this will get us past that last barrier. Why do I think this is good for Olivet? I did a lot of research on the Olivet website, and I'm sure I missed a ton of stuff, but one of the things that really I flagged to me as a marketing researcher that I love was this planning that was done back in 2004, 2006, 7, 8, and 9. And in 2004, there was a questionnaire that was done, and they surveyed elected officials, commissions like yourselves, as well as staff. And some of the results highlighted a desire for more commercial development that would meet the needs of daily residents. Currently, dog families have no pet supply businesses in Olivet, and there's only one dog park that I'm aware of, and I believe right now it's under construction. So they really don't have a lot of resources. The results of the survey also reinforced a desire for new development to increase employment and sales tax. Converting this undeveloped property to a new female-owned startup would achieve these goals. Also came from the visioning work. And so what we saw on that is it also included the fact that in their visioning work, and these are pictures excerpted straightly from the report, is that retail and mixed use development was visioned to be adjacent, which is on the left, or directly within the Dealman Industrial Park, which is the image on the right. So when I looked at this and I was reading the report, it really sparked to me. And what I took away from it is what I'm thinking of doing with this property and bringing to all of it isn't revolutionary in terms of your vision. And I think it would support the vision of bringing services and amenities to elevate the quality of life for all of it. Really live, work, and play in your community, not having to go outside of your community for the things you need to do every day. Again, amending the zoning regs to allow for this business, I think would fit with the Olivet vision. I think it provides services needed by the community, and I think it converts undeveloped commercial real estate into viable woman-owned business. I do have some examples of other somewhat similar businesses in the metro area. If you guys are interested, I can go through this with you. But before I do that, any questions so far? And Carol, did I answer your questions?
Some of them.
Okay.
So one is this, would you have monitors? You think watching the enclosures for the dogs? or-
Monitors watching the enclosures,
Right.
like staff walking around.
Yeah, like if a couple dogs get into a fight. Yep.
So
Do you have anybody there who's gonna know how to?
your city
separate?
dog park doesn't either.
Argue that, just asking about what you're talking.
No,
about.
the vision is not to have staff there monitoring the owners and the dogs. I'm lifting other dog parks visions that I've been to and that I've been members of, and that's pretty standard. When you ask to join a dog park, you're agreeing to these rules and regulations, and part of it is that your dog is well behaved, and if it's not, you leave the park.
And I assume similar to like a bar K and things like that, it's the expectations they've had their shots at a certain age.
Correct.
Things like that.
All the, I mean, all those will all be.
and I
coded.
get Carol like the concern, but I guess it's, and not to equate it exactly the same, but at a park, if your kid gets out of hand from their kid, it's like, which we've seen, but yeah, it could happen, but usually you wouldn't bring your dog if you knew they're super aggressive. You hope, but.
And you're also agreeing that if you get a warning, and if there's a second incident, your membership's revoked.
Who gives that warning if there's not?
So what the parks that I've been a member of is that you're notified. And so the owners of either the municipality, or I was a member of the one I have in here, the one in Ellisville. And so the owner would be notified, like there was an incident, we think this dog shouldn't be here. And the owner then would talk to the member, kind of gain a greater understanding of what happened and what they think the resolution would be. There are instances where you'll revoke a membership, but more than likely, it's something that can be worked out.
But there is staff on site, they're just not. Because
Not in all of them.
But
So
really?
Bar K does,
Oh,
correct.
okay,
And
what I
that's
guess I
primarily because they serve food and beverages
Yeah.
for their entire
Oh,
the
I see.
entire time they're open.
Okay.
So it's somewhat members and enforcing members or overseeing members. So if I'm a member. Mhm. And just like any other place, if I'm a member and I have a concern about somebody else's dog and what they've been doing or something, I can, there's a process to report it and gets looked into.
Correct. Yeah.
And all that. But that's done privately through the social club.
Correct. And during a special events, there'd be more staff there, as you can imagine, to take care of the event and address the owner's needs, but not to monitor the dogs.
So you'd have to be a member of the dog park and get a code to enter the fence to.
Correct. Your overall thinking is correct. It would actually be a key fob. But I'm not sure what your park uses. So University City, we have a key code. I know Brentwood, we have a key fob. And then the park that I was also a member of in Ellisville, we had a key fob, and that's what I'm envisioning using. I just think it's easier on the owner than the code. And plus the code you can give out to 10 other people.
Right.
You're probably
that's
not gonna give them
most-
your key fob.
Okay,
Does that help?
yeah,
Okay.
that helps. So you're, just by your membership list, you're limiting potential people who would be participating.
Correct.
Okay.
And also there's a limiting number of dogs that any one individual can bring. One individual can only bring 2 dogs. Because again, if you have dogs, you can't watch more than 2 dogs at any given time. You can't keep them under control. You can't pick up their poop. It's just impossible. And so if a household has more than 2 dogs, they have to have both members there if they're using the park.
Are there restrooms are the restrooms on site?
Yes, that would be part of the building.
Okay, and they're open while. the
Yes,
dog park's open?
Yep. That's a must, both for me as well as the members.
You've mentioned a retail portion, so I'm sure that would be staffed.
That would be staffed. That's part of the business plan that I haven't completely finalized. I know it's a nice service and amenity to have when you're going to any dog business, because as dog owners, there's always snacks and treats that, oh yeah, I'd love to get these, so you don't have to make another trip. Where that is in the business and how that functions, I haven't quite worked out yet.
What's the typical hours of operations for parks like this?
So the Ellisville one is 9 to 5. Dusk to dawn, pardon me. The Barkay, and that's more of in line of what I think would fit this community's needs. It would be more of early morning, like 7 a.m. until probably, hold on, I did write this down. Give me 1 second. Because I want to accommodate people that are commuting to work and you need to take your dog before you go to work. And then if you come home late, or if you're a shift worker at the hospital, you want to have that park available to you when you come back. So I didn't want to cut it off at dusk, especially in the wintertime. It needs to be open a little later to accommodate those people.
Or I'm curious on like what's the closest residential? You know,
What was your question? Sorry.
I'm just curious, closest residential, like we're talking a couple 100 feet or based off where it is. but-
We're the neighbors to us are there are no residences. The neighbors to us are Virginia Tile, Enterprise, Fleet, and then Archway. And then behind us is the Safeway, I think the flower, the thing where they do the flower arrangement. Okay, here's the hours.
The closest residential would be the new Opus development, I would think.
Looking at 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday to Thursday, and then Saturday, Sunday slightly later, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And that's really to probably accommodate people that are looking for more social as well as special events.
We actually do know that it's over 1,000 feet from any residential, just by virtue of the maps that we created for previous agenda items. that show them.
Question. Is there a amount of time limitation on how long you can leave your dog?
You say
It's like, I
leave your
don't see- I
dog.
see somebody bringing their dog to the park and leaving them for the day.
You can't ever leave your dog. You have to be there because well, number one, you want to be with your dog. It's not that you have to be, that's part of the experience, but you're responsible for watching them, picking up after them. And, when I go to the park with my dogs, I engage with them. I'm playing fetch with them. I'm throwing toys with them. So there are a lot of members that I see that kind of sit and, let their dog go off and sniff on their own, but can't leave your dog. So that was a good clarification point. Come up with another one.
Mr. Chairman, I have one. Is there a maximum amount of dogs that you can have in your social club at a time?
Yes.
And how would that be monitored?
There's 2 ways to answer that. There's the maximum amount for safety. And that has to do with how much square footage you want per dog. And that's far in excess of anything that I would ever have. So you want to have 75 square feet per dog for big dogs. And I think it's 40 or 45 square feet per dog for small dogs. And again, I wrote this down and I don't remember where that was. And that comes out to be in the small dog park, I think like 109. I think in the big dog park comes like 200 and something. I don't have the parking for that. And so I anticipated this question, and I think the only way that I can appropriately manage this is, you know, you're not going to be fully booked from day one. So you just have to monitor your membership. And because also you don't know in this community, what times of day are people going to come? Is your rush going to be before work and after work? Is your rush going to be Saturday and Sunday? So you just have to monitor that as you're going. And then where you start to see that you're maxing out. And I don't think it's going to be maxing out number of dogs and maxing out parking spaces. That's where we'll have to monitor that.
But when I sign up to be a member of the dog park, do you then check and make sure my dog is vaccinated? Stuff that's required to participate in the.
Correct.
Okay.
I would follow a similar procedure like the municipal dog parks do, where the owner has to provide proof of the vaccination and rabies when they're submitting their application with their money. And then on an annual basis when they renew as well.
Kennel cough.
As far as I recall, I don't have that memorized, but I don't think kennel cough is required for dog parks.
You mentioned grooming and training, but I guess is that going to be ad hoc?
Correct.
Okay, or something in the future plan?
Those are additional amenities and services as benefits to the members.
You're not having like a groomer on site you're taking appointments every day for 9 to 5.
No, that's not the vision of what we're
Okay,
trying to bring. to life.
that's, I think I'd read that and assumed that's why you always have staff, but that's.
Want to show us?
The examples? Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Daniel had a question.
Oh,
Ms.
yeah.
Wonderful, one second.
Well, yeah, I could probably answer this myself by
okay.
looking at Google Maps, but I know that, right, there's a lot of parking in. But I'm sure a lot of people would probably just plan to like work this into their dog walk routine. There's like a stop on the way, but it's 1,000 feet from any residential areas. If somebody does want to walk their dog from a surrounding neighborhood.
Are there
is there a
sidewalks?
Sidewalk.
Yes. That's what I'm envisioning, especially with the new development that you all have planned or proposed or approved. There's the townhouses over here. I don't know if there's a sidewalk on this street, but once they get into the industrial park, there's sidewalks throughout that, I believe. I know there is. If I come in on that side of the industrial park and come forward across the enterprise area. So the new development that you're proposing over there, those houses, they would have sidewalks all the way over.
Cool.
Once they get into the industrial park. I don't know about the other side, like the community side. But if not, they should put them in.
So I can answer that from my end of the world because my dog used to like to walk until she got too old. For me, I would have to cross Dillman Road to get into the industrial park. There really is not a lot of residential that is around this location.
And that's
There's-
this road.
Right,
Okay.
but people used to drive their dogs to Stacy Park and then get their dog out and then do their routine at the park. So I don't see any difference there of, oh, new place, different place, more socialization, maybe get the dog in the car and drive there. Yeah.
Lighting would be 2,700.
I know, isn't that great? With Facing down, yes. And my husband was elbowing me through that entire presentation. But we built a carport and I put this, I always thought more money, more lumen, like better ROI. And it's just glaring. Like he says that you can see it from space. But we don't use it, just to say the least. Yeah, 2,700 warm lights. Anyway, so this is Bar K. What I love about this one is this is a real good success story. They started out in Kansas City. My husband and I have family out there, so we visited them years ago out there and just really loved their business model. Didn't want to replicate it exactly because it's extremely staff intensive and that's not really what we're looking for. But they actually brought one back over to St. Louis. I know it took them a long time to get it going. I think it's just a really large operation. Probably had a lot of regulatory hurdles would be my guess. It is in an industrial area, and that's one thing I wanted to highlight on several of these is I've been to similar dog businesses throughout the US, Atlanta, Georgia, California, Kansas City, and they typically, even doggy daycares and kennels, they typically are in industrial zones. And I think part of that is that you can't be by residences. And there oftentimes isn't commercial property available in a high retail area. So you're kind of left with those types of properties. So in terms of, is it the right fit, a good fit? There are other instances where, you know, that is where they are and they work just fine. So I just wanted to highlight that out.
And if you're not familiar with McCree or that area, it's pretty heavily industrialized.
And there one in Kansas City as well. It's right off of the river. Like, it's really hard to get to. It's under an overpass. That's probably that one. Right. So this is one that I belonged to, my husband and I belonged to for a while, way out in Wildwood. It took us 40 minutes to get out there, is why we don't belong anymore. But I mentioned that I have, you know, lab dogs, and they have a diving dock out there in their pond. And, you know, labs love to jump and swim. And it was worth the 40 minutes just for my dog to have that enjoyment. It's a wonderful park. I sat down with the owner last year, and really, she gave me a lot of great tips and advice. Her model is a lot of what I'm lifting and leveraging in terms of this model, in terms of there's not staff monitoring the dogs. It's key fob, secure entrance in and out. But then I'm also lifting a little bit of the services and amenities that some of the other businesses offer, because I really think that that's what a lot of people are looking for that have dogs. They really want that opportunity. So really melding a couple of different businesses to make what I think will fit right in this community. The other one is the doghouse over in Soulard. I hesitated on putting this one in because it doesn't show very pretty, but I think it is popular in Soulard. It's a really nice opportunity if you want to go have a beer, have a food, and with your dog and your friends with dogs. It's not heavy on recreation, it's heavy on social. So those were the examples that I brought to kind of highlight this type of a business. And that's the information I had to share with you this evening. There you go. You've got my contact information. If you have follow-up questions, happy to address them again. Tonight isn't about whether or not you want to approve this business. It's really around trying to work with you on getting zoning regulations so I can move forward. All in favor?
I'm curious, like, is there, I looked at light industrial and what, I'm not having a problem with it, but couldn't a special permit just come before us and we approve it? Because I'm worried, like, we might put language in, if we made an amendment to put language in that allowed this, but there's 10 other examples we haven't thought about 5 years from now. So it's like, I'm wondering if a special permit might be fastest, expeditious way.
And I think that, you know, the goal of this conversation was to get guidance from the commission on two aspects. One, is it a use that's reasonably competitive with the light industrial park? And I think Ms. Honig has done a lot of research and gathered a lot of information from the comprehensive plan and also the examples to show that it works. You know, that there are success stories of these type of uses within industrial park areas and all that. So that kind of, you know, looking, is there is consensus for the commission, kind of answers question one. Question two is, again, should it be considered as a permitted or a special permit use? And there is a difference between those two. The permitted use comes in, and generally the commission doesn't have any authority, nor the city, it's not just the commission, any authority to impose any additional regulations or anything beyond of what's approved in the site improvement plan. So you don't control hours, you don't control buffers. There are other parts of the ordinance that controls noises, that controls lights and things of that nature, surveillance, security, things like that. Through a special permit process, the commission has the authority to approve, a use subject to conditions to make it more compatible with the surroundings. Conditions can be a buffer, a residential buffer, because remember, this amendment would, if we move on, applies to all the light industrial districts. So there's not a possibility right now, but somewhere down the future, there could be a piece of property next to residential. And would this use be okay? I'm not specifically sure or comfortable that it would be. And I think the code right now is pretty clear. It allows veterinary services. So a veterinary service can come in and locate at, let's say, 1220 North Price. That backs up to the Arrowhead subdivision in there. But, you know, those services generally take place inside or indoors. and all that. There's an outside space for the bit larger animals or something, but it's, these things generally take place in there. We have one right here off of Olive that backs up to Llewellyn, and they're under a special permit, but in the industrial district, they're permitted by right. However, a kennel, it's permitted by special permit for the purposes so additional regulations can be applied. Those regulations were a buffer, standards for the kennel sizes and limitations in there. So it's not essentially saying you can't do it, but we'll consider allowing you to do it if you do it subject to these. And I think there's even a control on hours. And what would work in terms of, a use like this on Ms. Koenig would be, the city's conditions could be your business plan or requirements for your members. Because again, I have to look at, the city will look at this as, that we hope that this becomes successful, but and under your ownership forever, but something might come in and we want to make sure that any new ownership or change would be subject to those same standards. Welcoming that they can come in and approach the city to change hours or change some part of the process, but that we have some type of control in there. And that's really the difference between something permitted by right and something under a special permit. And again, I'm not advocating for one or the other. It's just to make sure the commission's informed of those two.
Because I'm kind of an advocate for authorizing this as a special permit. Because in our industrial area is the only place where industrial uses go. And I hate to think that we would end up filling them up with other types of uses. And so I'm thinking that if we want to permit something like this, that qualifying it such that it can exist on a limited basis, industrial park, so that we don't have other types of uses coming into our industrial park that taking up acreage that we want for industrial type uses. That's my main concern.
Yep.
But so if we look at piece of property specifically, are there things that we could say about it that would help eliminate a lot of other places within the industrial park and say, it's this kind of use should be restricted to this kind of property. Something like that. So we could allow it on a very limited basis.
If I may, Carol, and I just realized, Carlos, somehow these two pictures got transposed on the side. On my version, they're sitting up straight, so I apologize for that. But I will add the comment, though, that one of the things that I thought was really interesting in your long-term visioning work is that you were looking at the Dealman Industrial Park as multi-use. It wasn't just light industrial. So that was one of the possibilities of long-term vision. So I hear what you're saying, but I would say the city's considered or looked at something alternative.
I wouldn't think anywhere else, but industrial, I wouldn't want it near, the residences with, potentially a lot of.
I'd love it on Olive, but it's just not possible.
Yeah, but you run into, potential complaints or people walking by or things like that. With the dogs chase, people walking down the side.
I agree. I think industrial park is suitable for it, but I also am concerned about making sure that our industrial parks are for the industrial type uses.
No, I
And
don't disagree, but right
so I
now,
wouldn't want to allow 5, dog parks or other types of uses to take up lots that we would otherwise want for industrial type uses.
I think
But
one or
that's the
two
concern.
is not.
Well, I think on a limited basis.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We did a special permit type use instead of permitted use. We'd have more authority to limit.
It's safety for the dogs. I'm a dog lover, and yes, I've had black labs too. And I've had black labs that don't like water and don't like us. But it really is, to me, I see it as a safety for the dog, because sometimes the dog will get loose as you're preparing to leave or get in. And I would not like to see you on Holland because that's a busy street. So to me, I look at this as another way of safety for the animal as well with its location being in a non-high traffic area.
And, a special permit, there's different ways to look at it, but it's not, the intention is not to be regulatory, but it's to make it more specific to the use and the quality of the services that you are providing, which makes the next person trying to come in having to meet or exceed those
I get
standards.
that.
So it puts us.
The one thing I'd add is if that's the avenue you all do choose to go down and you entertain the language and the ordinance on that, is I would encourage you to consider the hours that I proposed. I know the kennel hours that you have in your special use permit, I think it was the kennel hours were much earlier. And some parks are dusk to dawn, and I just don't think that's what your community needs. You have people that are shift workers, you have people that are commuting, and they really need that opportunity earlier and later to exercise their dogs.
And I think it's reasonable because I think the intent of the kennel was with an understanding that it was overnight.
Right.
And where this is not the same type of thing. And here, while we're trying to promote people density, your densities of dogs is not going to be the same as somebody having two.
Three staff.
Carlos, how far is this from the Greenway gonna be?
It will be probably within 500 feet.
So it'll be accessible then from the Greenway, kind of, sort of.
Is this a new Greenway?
Yes. Mhm.
I didn't see those.
So you
Are those
see-
online?
Right here,
That's that's gonna be developed?
that's going to be part of the.
Well, that's awesome.
Oh, I was only for Jody.
Jody was ready.
I mean, I feel like we're all agreed it makes sense there, and the reason I thought special was I feel like if we crafted just for this language, then there's something else to think up with, and I think we're all agreed it's the right place. I actually think it might be even faster with the special I found.
No, it's not.
But maybe I'm wrong, but.
It's not because of the and I get why you guys want to do that and but it's not faster on my end. There's a lot of requirements that I have to submit with my request. It's not even, I think, an application, right, Dawn? Don't I just give you a bunch of stuff and engineering surveys and site plans, architectural plan, landscaping plans? There's a ton of stuff I have to
Special
do.
versus a regular.
Yes.
Well, no, understand.
Yes,
you'd still
there,
would-
there is.
you-
The difference is, and if I may just one moment, the difference for me as a small business owner that doesn't have tons of capital funding is and I know that's probably the way you're gonna go, so I get it. But if I were to get assurances that, yes, we're gonna let you open up this business, I could go to the bank, get my SBA loan, and all those things that I'd have to do, I can bucket into my SBA loan. I don't have to come up with them out of pocket. Going to the special use really isn't small business friendly because we have to go out of pocket upwards of $50,000 to get all the requirements ready to then say, can I get a special use permit? And you could still say no. So it's not faster. It's a lot of hardship on the small business. But I understand how that safeguards your community. I just wish there was a happy medium.
And we can take a look at that because there are ways that we can look at if you can go back to the slide of your layout.
Yeah.
The purpose or intent of the special permit is to establish strong parameters on how the operations would be made compatible with the operations. And something like this could be used as the basis of a conceptual plan to go before the city to get, yes, this is good, but you're going to come back with your engineered drawings and then just get the commission's approval at that
To
point.
get the building
So
permit.
there are things we can probably work with you, because it's understandable. It's a risk. It's a big risk of you taking to be told no in the end. And this is one of the goals here, is to see how comfortable the commission is with the proposal. We can work on the process in there, so you can come in conceptually so you can at least get that, yes, you can do this, and then you're going to come back with your finalized drawings, just like you would anywhere else for the permit.
That would be a big help.
I understand.
Okay.
Excellent.
Is that
Thank
it?
you.
We're good?
Yeah, does anybody
Okay.
else have any further discussion? Carol?
So I'll just, So I think it's an interesting idea. I like the concept a lot. And
Are you a dog owner, Carol?
Unfortunately, no, because my sister's highly allergic, but, I guess one of the things that I do like is that it is away from residential. So the noise of the dogs playing and so on isn't likely to be as pronounced, as bothersome to a resident, which is important to me.
Yeah.
And in the industrial area, I'm not quite as concerned about. So I think that's nice.
I will add one comment to build on that is if you're ever going by a dog park, and I know yours is under construction right now, but Brentwood, a good dog park with healthy social interactions isn't loud. You might get a bark here and there, but really they're busy playing, they're running around, they're fetching. It isn't loud. So I'm glad that you think this is a great place for it, but I also want to just propose that it shouldn't be allowed burdensome to the community. And I have talked to the neighbors on the property, Archway and Virginia Tile, and they both were very supportive of it. Archway thought maybe it'd be a way to get some of their employees to come back into the office because they're all working remotely. Exactly, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Anyways,
very
thank you
much.
for your time, everyone. Appreciate it.
You can see Bulldog from a really, really big coloring book.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. I think item C, 9549 Old Bonham Road, that's gonna be deferred.
Yes, Chairman.
Okay, good. So we'll move on to other business and meeting minutes. I see none, so I think we'll move on from that to reports. Carlos.
Right, just a couple of updates in there. Our next scheduled meeting is of course on the 15th. We have several items that will be before the commission, including one new house, possibly 2 pools, and there was one other item I just can't think of. Oh, the Old Bonham plat. In there, we get the necessary changes. Our first meeting in January, I'm requesting the commission to cancel that. It falls on the same week of the 1st. I think that's going to be the 5th. January 5th. If we can cancel that, bringing our next meeting to January 19th.
It's a winter holiday.
The commission's okay. That way we can get it noted to anybody that's applying. So we'll have our meeting for January 19th. At the meeting for the 19th, I anticipate several items. Again, these would have been on the 19th, not in the first meeting of January, but we anticipate that we'll be getting development plans for the office structure at Olive Crossing. There may be another house or 2, and I think those are so far, and we possibly can have a drafted text amendment regarding the dog park or so. Yeah, for the commission for consideration. The other thing was at let's stop the share here before I lose Jody, and then share. And the Olive Crossing Apartments, that's unit 1 being sheetrocked. They have 183 or more of these to go. But it was really cool to see. This is one of the 750 square feet efficiency units in there. It's passed its framing inspection and roughs and all that, and was the first one to get the drywall covering in place there. So that's moving along. And there, haven't heard from Revo Cup regarding his opening dates for the coffee shop, but he submitted all his paperwork in there, so it's on his end, waiting for the scheduling of the inspection. So everybody's, pardon?
What's the coffee shop?
The replacement for the tenant space at the old Starbucks. It's called Rebel Cup.
Level cut?
There is a Maryland Heights location and a couple in Kansas City,
Yes.
Their coffee beans come from a different. From what I recollect, where the coffee beans were. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, part of St. Louis, we have one of our bigger imports is coffee beans, and they're processed around Vanderventer and.
Renoco.
Yeah, right around that parquet.
They're not there, yeah.
So Thomas Coffee and a couple others, all on in that area.
St. Louis is Center for Coffee.
Didn't realize.
And
Anything
I,
else?
I think that's all I have. Don, is there any items?
I just have, little quips of wisdom here and there. That's all I got. But
All right. Bessie?
Not really much to report, other than we had a very successful Olivet 9th year turkey trot. And right now it is time for the consideration of 2 open seats for the April election. We're coming up to the new year. I want to wish everyone a happy, healthy. I appreciate everything that you do. I hope that 2023 is very busy for you.
All
And I
right.
hope to see you all in 23. Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all.
Any further discussions or any comments? Seeing none, we will adjourn at 8:54. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairman.
I wanted to be 9.